So I can't see who's watching here, right?
No.
No.
Oh yeah, people are watching.
I have a colleague that was asking whether the live feed would be available afterwards as well.
Yeah, so because it's on YouTube live stream, it's recording itself. And once we finish the live stream, anybody can watch it as well if they have the link. That's what we've seen so far. You could see all of our little tests.
Yep.
So she deleted them, but yeah, I will.
Same link that you provided in the email?
Yeah, and we'll share it again after.
Yeah, and we'll send it out again afterwards.
Yes. So
2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Yes.
I would just say, okay, if people are asking questions, they need to be able to see the feed on the side.
Yeah.
So maybe I should have that open on your laptop on the side.
Yeah.
Because of this, we can't see the feed.
Yes. Yes. So we're broadcasting and we're gonna, where's the slide? Sorry. Can you just remind me?
You have the window open over here.
Oh, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And where's us? No. Up here? No. Where's the live broadcast?
Okay, so it's in a separate window.
Oh.
So you can.
Oh, what did you just do? Let's just do it like that.
Perfect. 3 fingers.
3 fingers.
Swipe up.
Okay. I am just learning.
This is not your computer. Yeah. Sorry about that.
And I'm also flustered.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's then not the link there.
Okay.
We're kind of trying to put together 2 pieces, a live presentation and an online presentation at the same time.
Let's start it. Let's go for it. Shall we connect? Yes. Friday night to start.
Okay. So put that up, but if you swipe up with the 3 fingers,
yes,
right there. So we are starting with this.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to start right there.
Is there any way of seeing like who's online? Like, are people actually logging in now? We don't know.
That's what I mean. It's on the YouTube.
Okay, right. You just explained that to me.
Can you open it on your laptop? The link.
So that's the old one, though. The old one, though.
Oh, just
perfect. So
there, perfect. So I'll take that off to the side when I pass you over.
Right. We still can't. Oh, 10 people are watching.
Okay. Yeah,
that's scary.
So they'll be commenting on the side. So
yes.
I'll take this.
Okay.
Just to the side, maybe just over here.
Okay.
On the front row there.
Yeah.
And after we can address some questions. Bye, Karen.
Karen isn't going to leave us. She's like, these two are going to burn the place down.
Yeah, you're hanging around. Okay, so we are going to get started. Thank you. I see some of you in the room here. We have some people that are on YouTube Live. Yes. Yes. So we'll just maybe, we'll leave that there. We will actually just open up by talking to you and being on video, but then we will be switching to the slides so that we're not watching the video up here on the screen. And people on YouTube Live will be just watching the slides as well. Okay. So I'm just going to get started to introduce Shiva. And Shiva is actually a social anthropologist. She's been teaching now since 2012. She's interested in society and humans, and that is what brings her to the work that she does.
Absolutely.
She has taught actually at 3 universities across Canada and has developed and ran online courses. So when we sat down to talk about this workshop, she had a lot of really interesting insights, and I thought we can definitely pull this together into something that other people can learn from as well.
Thank you, Winita.
She has a number of publications, and she's got a co-edited book called After the Flight. It's about immigrants and refugees.
Yes.
And just to mention that, like all of us, she's a very busy person. She has a lot of things going on in her life. And so trying to manage online courses is important for integrating it into your life so that you don't just overwhelm yourself. And so that's what she's bringing here is her experiences with avoiding being overwhelmed with trying to teach online courses. Hello, welcome. People coming in. Please come in and sit down. So we're going to switch to the slides now.
Here, right?
Yeah.
So with a bit more force.
Just a moment. We'll be back. Did you bring up? Okay. So, and my name is Benita Squires. I am a PhD student, and I'm supporting Shiva in this presentation. But I'm just going to start us off by mentioning that when we're talking about online learning, we are specifically talking about structured online courses, not about, you know, if I want to go online and learn stuff from blogs, etc. So make sure we're all on the same page. And it's, of course, not just offered through post-secondary institutions. You can get online courses as a hobby now, go on Moodle and buy courses. So what we are talking about today is really Shiva's tips on how to both foster and evaluate learning while still staying sane. If you came looking for how to create and use online teaching platforms, etc., there's a lot of tools out there on the internet, and I came across this directory. Hello, welcome. Came across this directory that might be useful to you if you're looking for what are the different platforms, how do you use them, who are consultants who can help me develop online courses, that kind of thing. So that is the purpose. That's not the purpose of our presentation today. It's more to share Shiva's experiences and examples from her teaching. Okay?
Are these slides going to be accessible?
Yes, we can share the slides after. And right now, if you were to check into the YouTube Live event, this is what you would see on the YouTube Live's video, is the actual slides. So we will also share a link to the slides. Yes, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, so I'll pass it over to Shiva.
Thank you.
And she will be working through the, and hi Dave.
Hi, David.
And hi Lindsay. We will take questions after.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Bonita, for that beautiful introduction. So yeah, and I just want to share with you from the outset, and I've been telling this to Bonita so many times that she's told me to stop saying it to her, but I'm going to say it to you. I'm not an expert in online education, and I'm not setting myself up as an expert, but I just want to share. I've taught it at least 3 online courses, and I've developed online courses for 2 others, and across a range of levels, so 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 level, like heavy theory courses. And I learned a lot of do's and don'ts while doing that work. And we were talking about things that might be interesting and what is on the rise. And oh, look, online teaching is on the rise. There are 1.6 million online course registrations at Canadian colleges and universities only. And the number of online courses offered for credit increased by 150% from 2011 to 2015. And I should also add that the online courses that I've been teaching and developing have been here at St. Mary's University. So this is also a local phenomenon, if you like, as well as a Canada-wide and indeed worldwide phenomenon that a lot of higher education is moving online. Who is bearing the burden of online education? Who is actually doing the work? Guess who? We are, right? The literature does acknowledge that online courses, the increased pressure to offer online courses leads to this increased adjunctification of the teaching workforce. And what we see has accompanied, although there doesn't seem to be adequate theorization or sufficient theorization about this, is that the growth of online education is in fact accompanied by labor force casualization in academia. And this is, of course, something which is of direct concern to us as CUPE members. So online teaching is touted as the next best thing. Students seem to really love it, for one thing. They don't have to spend a lot of time in the classroom with profs. And it's easy to see the benefits for institutions. But let's look a bit more deeply at the pros and cons of online teaching. Sorry. I'm just trying to do something here. Right, you can see my notes too.
Yeah, presenter view.
Oh, sorry. This isn't my laptop.
The drop-down arrow beside present.
Right, gotcha.
Does
Thank you. No.
Sorry, the notes won't be available, Sheila.
Okay. I'll just wing it then. Thank you for that. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about what I found to be the pros and cons of online teaching. The first pro which comes to mind is its flexibility, which is also its con. And I'm going to be talking about that too, that you can develop your course and you can offer it. And there's a lot of flexibility about the hours that you spend on your course, you know, the time that you spend with your students. You're absolutely not tied to a classroom, to a building. Storm doesn't matter, which is storms don't matter, weather conditions don't matter. And that is, in fact, I think the great pro of online teaching, that it just is not tied to a particular structure at a particular place and time. Regarding the cons of online teaching, and I don't want to turn this into a huge rant about the cons of online teaching because it's absolutely not that, but there were some hidden cons, if you like, that I hadn't actually thought about in depth when I started with my engagement, which I shared with you in regards to online teaching. One, that I found that it's way more easier for students to plagiarize and cheat. So I'll be talking a bit about my strategies and how I was able to deal with that and how I adapted myself and my courses to deal with that. What I found with cons, so as Bonita mentioned, I'm a social anthropologist, so I do come from a kind of leftist background, and I did find that online teaching does tend to depoliticize the student body, if you like. I think being a student at a university has traditionally come across with, not that I think, historically, has traditionally come with a certain amount of politicization, and online teaching is another step to stripping politicization from the student body. So take that as you may. That was when people aren't gathered in a particular space, they're not sharing their experiences, they're not talking about the tuition fees that they're paying, they don't have that kind of mass spark to them, their political teeth are kind of drawn. And again, that was my experience. So feel free to take that. And I think that is part of the more general trend where we do see the student body kind of more and more depoliticized. And that might be a pro or con, depending what kind of chair you're sitting on, what kind of position you have in the academia, right? For me, that is definitely a con. And the other con of online teaching, so, and the first bullet point for me, perhaps that is the greatest con of online teaching. For me, teaching is an intense, and I think a lot of people will echo that, or this will resonate with a lot of people sitting here or watching online. Teaching has a very rich psychosocial engagement, right? There's a particular physicality to your presence in the classroom when you're making eye contact with your students. I was recounting to Benita the other day, for me, the most rewarding aspects of teaching is when I'm lecturing on something, and there are moments, they're not even perhaps the moments that I planned, but I'm talking about something, and I see the light in their eyes, right? I see that aha moment. I see their eyes open up. I see them engage, like they're looking up from their phones and they're looking at the screen, they're looking at me, and you get that connection. And that is the intensely rich mental, intellectual, emotional satisfaction that teaching offers you. I personally do not get that from online education, but at the same time, I believe that it is possible to craft a rewarding and engaging pedagogical experience from online education. It's just not going to be the same as traditional classroom-based teaching. And it is here to stay. I don't see any of those trends that I talked about, those kind of broader background context that we talked about earlier in the presentation, as going away anytime soon. So I think that graph will continue to increase, right? So online education is here to stay. And we will, as instructors, need to engage with it in a positive and strategic way. And that's kind of what this presentation is about. So here we are. You know, most of us come from a generation where we have not really had online teaching. I remember Open University in Britain, where you watch the TV, right? That was like the closest thing to online teaching back in the 90s. How do we go about it? We got a contract, yay, to do an online course. Now we're like thinking about it. And this is how, like, literally I was thrown in the deep end. I had no clue. I was like, there's a contract. You want it? I was like, yes, I'm a single mom. I need contracts. Give it to me. I can do it. I can do anything. I'm just like graduating. I can do that. So talking to other profs who had done online education and talking to the folk here at the Global Learning Studio, here are some of my hacks. Don't try to recreate the classroom experience in an online course. That was the first mistake that I and my colleagues tried to make, that we would be first engaged in recording that kind of long 2-hour lecture or 1 hour or 30 or however long lecture. We would try and record it. We would try and upload it. The results were horrible. Clumsy, clunky, it wouldn't upload. When it did upload, we looked, oh, none of us are professional. There's a reason actors and performers are paid as highly as they are, right? We are not those people. We can carry off classroom discussions with a certain amount of panache and confidence. We can't do that online. We come across as being awkward and clumsy, and we start stuttering. And I don't know, for me and my colleagues in sociology criminology, the effect of trying to record lectures, video record, or even audio record to a certain extent, it was not something that worked satisfactorily for us. The whole point, and I want to say, and this is hard for us, I think, to acknowledge, but the whole point of an online course is it's largely self-directed by students, and we do need to let some control go of how the students wish to engage with us. That was kind of where I went with it. And as I kind of became more comfortable with delivering content and engaging students online, I realized rather than attempting to upload lectures, upload podcasts, audio recording, what students really seem to engage with are slides, page summaries, and discussions, engagements, creating that space, which Brightspace does quite effectively, creating space by discussion and exchange, but also allowing for greater voice of the student of students. And I'll try and illustrate, I'll illustrate what I mean by that. Oh, sorry.
Slides in the video.
Oh, sorry.
Right now it's in the video. Share screen.
Sorry, what do you need me to?
Sorry, in the Google Hangouts, we need to share the screen. We're not sharing the slides right now.
Oh, all this time we haven't been sharing the screen.
Okay, so
I'll
we'll
just
do
do
that when we
Oh,
testing this.
Why did we completely forget about that? What?
And now we need full screen. So just
There we go.
It is YouTube Live.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, people who are streaming. Not sorry to you. You were seeing it. So in traditional classrooms, I think there is a large element where the prof is in complete control of what's going on in her or his class, right? The students are sitting, we're standing, talking at them. The students are silent. They can only speak with our permission, right? More or less. So it's a very traditional kind of authoritarian dynamic, and we've all grown up with that. We're kind of, that is not what it's like online, right? And students, that kind of, at least for me, that kind of hierarchy kind of dissolved in cyberspace. I actually found students who are actually quite unwilling to speak up in class, and it's well established, it's well documented that, for example, younger women are generally unwilling to speak up in classroom situations and so on. They seem to find their voice, which is actually, I forgot, one of the pros of online courses. And they were more willing to tell me what worked for them and what didn't work for them. So that was interesting. For example, I would have students tell me, and that might seem contradictory to what I said a minute ago, students would tell me that they don't like to discuss on Brightspace. They prefer to have their discussions on Facebook. The reason being that they didn't like how they couldn't just enter Brightspace via an app on their phone. For them, it was very clunky to have to log in every time to Brightspace. And in fact, I think an app for Brightspace is coming at some point. And they found it very tedious and unwilling to engage with that. So they wanted to do either Facebook discussions or actually meeting physically over coffee in the atrium for their discussion. So I had to think about that then and think about how to incorporate these more informal discussions in my evaluation in my classroom. So the strategy that I adopted was that I told the students, and I actually got them to do a survey. I said, either you would have Brightspace discussions, which you don't like, and I will evaluate you on those discussions, or you can have Facebook discussions or meet outside, meet in the atrium or wherever. I don't know where you're meeting. I can't evaluate those discussions, but then each group has to hand in a summary of their discussion, and I will evaluate that. It's up to you. And surprisingly, I think like something over 90% of the class voted for Facebook discussions. They committed to submitting summaries of their discussion for evaluation rather than conducting discussions on Brightspace. So that was, for me, that was an interesting experience, that even though I wanted students to discuss and be engaged and kind of have that kind of educational back and forth, at one point I did let the students have the choice of where they actually wanted that discussion to take place. I found that by losing that kind of groundedness and physicality of the classroom, I found that I was actually more engaged in back and forth and discussion with the students. So, and this does not refer to the Facebook discussions. Obviously, I could not be part of those, but to other sorts of discussions that we ended up having on Brightspace. And I ended up, sorry, I can't, sorry, Bonita, I can't go to the next screen. Oh. No, this is clunky. Oh, this is go to the next screen. Okay.
Anyone familiar with this in the room?
Maybe if we come out of this.
Yes, but we can get each slide.
Yeah. So YouTube people can't see that right now? Right. Right, where's the this is the screen one. What? Let me see desktop.
I'm sorry, we're so sorry. This is
let's see. Where did we go? Where's the?
let's move to a different desktop.
Oh, should we just go back to here? No. Here. Yeah, where we see our faces, like the Hangout. Okay. Here. Yes. Okay. Let's do this one more time. Screen share. Application window. What happened to it?
That's what I mean. It's in a separate.
Yeah. Share. No. Stop.
Wow.
Okay. Let's just do what we're doing and tell the YouTube people we'll share the slide afterwards. Let's not take too much time. I think right now that's the best thing we can do. Unless, yeah. What would we doing that?
I'm not sure if it got moved to a different desktop.
Right, and we can't bring it back. Okay, whatever. We'll just continue. So, yeah, as I found, I was actually engaging with students, albeit in cyberspace, a lot more than what I would be doing normally in a classroom where I would come, talk, maybe put students in discussion groups, like kind of look at what they're doing and then walk out again. I found that, say, at 3:30 p.m., for example, I'd be there online, going back and forth with students about de Tocqueville or whoever, right? And I did find that it does tend to morph and kind of get into all other aspects of my time. And so that's another thing that I'll be talking about that you want to think about and you want to put parameters around, unless it's your thing to go online and talk at 2 a.m. about de Tocqueville to students, in which case that's fine too. So as I keep mentioning throughout this presentation, the accessibility and flexibility of online teaching is very much a double-edged sword. What the Global Learning Studio recommended to me here at SMU was to set 2-hour time frames to actually receive assignments. If I wanted to avoid that assignments coming in at all periods and all time, and just make sure that I got like however many 80 or however many in a short block of time. What I found that students didn't like those kinds of timelines and deadlines. The whole point for them of taking an online course was to be free of those kinds of time restraints. So the moment I said, okay, you have between 12 to 2 p.m. to submit your assignment, I literally got back 10 emails saying, I'm working at that time. I can't submit assignment. You have to change my time frame. There's no way I can. Do you want me to send you an email, a letter from my manager? No, I don't want to say. I'll take your word for it. So I compromised, right? As always, I put up a 24-hour time frame, and I told myself not to, but that's my own nervous tick, just to go and see if people are submitting assignments. Are they submitting? Are they submitting? Just put a 24-hour time frame for them to submit their assignments. Hopefully, none of them is working 24 hours straight. And then that will be, and then after the 24 hours is done, I'll go into Dropbox, download all the assignments, and whoosh, do like a bit of marking. Yes.
Why wouldn't you just have a deadline? If they have why 24 hours?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, why don't you just put a deadline for the assignments? And I'm trying to think why I didn't do that at the time, why I end up with a 24-hour slot for them to, and again, like I said, so this was the recommendation of the people here, the tech people here, to give them a window to enter to submit their assignments. So I guess I didn't think about that. I just went with that window idea rather than giving them like complete flexibility up to a certain date to enter. But yeah, I think technically you could just set a deadline, a due date, and have them to make sure, although, right, okay, again, that's why. Again, you might get people saying, I'm just away, I can't access internet at that particular day or the day where the deadline is. I just need more time, more like a open period of time where I can know that I can submit my my work. I think that's it, yes.
Anytime up until then.
Yeah.
You could have 2 weeks. Yeah.
But then they would have to submit it before, right? Before the, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could do it that way for sure. And then you would just have them like dribbling in dribs and drabs up to, then you would, yeah. Yes.
So I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
It's a 1-week cycle, and they have to submit their initial assignments, which they're given midnight by Thursday at 11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Then they have from Thursday to the next Sunday, to interact with each other
Yeah.
about their assignments, and they can all see each other's submissions. I'm getting 80 to 90% per week assignments on time with responses to other people's assignments.
And are the students happy to have other students look at their assignments?
Oh, they have to.
Right, yeah, they don't complain. Yeah.
And so, and then I'm scoring them not only on their individual assignment, but
their interaction, yes.
With each other. They know that.
Yeah, I've certainly, as a student, I've done courses where there was peer review and you had to have students and your peers would read your work and interact with it. But again, my experience with students is that they're not a huge fan of having other students read their work. I mean, for sure, absolutely. That is also a valid pedagogical, that's also a valid educational technique. I'm just sharing my experiences, right? But I think that is also valid. And yeah, getting students to read each other's work and comment on it is absolutely a great educational tool. My own experience was that students are extremely reluctant to do that, and it's just like really hard for them to share their stuff. Again, you know, the burden of our educational system where everybody's just like so paranoid about their work. But yeah, if you can get it working and it's working for your students, that's great, and you're getting good participation, then for sure, why not? Yeah, and the other thing, again, your personal flexibility. Put boundaries. Like, it's true, you don't have to be in a classroom. You can have your Dropbox. You can set all sorts of restrictions and conditions on the Dropbox, which receive assignments. You can receive it in a 2-hour. You can receive it in a 1 week. You can receive it up to it. But do consider your personal flexibility and consider your own time, because certainly, I found with online teaching, more so than with that very structured classroom teaching, that it does tend to swallow up my time, maybe because of just the kind of more loosey-goosey way I structured discussions or whatever. I did have to take note of that.
What's the involvement?
I've had, right now I'm not teaching online, but I've had around 20, typical SMU classes, well, not typical, between 20 to 40, not more than 40. The classical theory one I did was 40. Yeah. Quizzes and tests. So most of these educational platforms, Brightspace, the one used by SMU being no exception, it offers you a lot of ways to generate all sorts of different quizzes and tests. But how do you prevent cheating, right? And that is something which comes up again and again. Students, when you lose that face-to-face interaction, right? When you lose that physicality of classroom present, when you don't know who your students are because you've never met them and the students have never met you, it just opens that space that much more for cheating. What can you do to monitor it? And this was my strategy. It's a terrible strategy, so I'd be happy to hear your strategies. My strategy was to let it go, because at one point I realized that it's stressing me out so much. It's a bunch of unpleasant interactions. And as a part-time, and I probably shouldn't be saying that, I probably won't ever get another contract to teach at all. But as a part-time faculty, it's simply not worth my time and energy to police student assignments to see. And there was a limit. And at the same time, you don't want students thinking you're an idiot, right? The whole thing with plagiarism is right now it's become this institutional, like there are companies, we all know that, right? There are companies offering to sell essays on any topic, literally the PhD thesis. So it's you against this whole institutional structure, this business world out there. And for sure, several times it would happen that I would realize that this essay is not written by a first-year student with English as a second language, right? And this is a professionally written and paid for essay. I did ask for guidance on how to deal with it, and the response was, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Like, if you want to confront the student, and my response was to make the student sweat, right? I didn't want to enter some unpleasant back and forth with the student, I just let it linger, let it linger, let it linger. And that was my response to my kind of emotional response to dealing with that kind of situation, and then not giving it the kind of grade that it deserved. Although by that time that I actually entered the grade, the student was so happy to get the grade that they didn't bother me. Yes.
Do you not have a third party kind of person that you can just forward potential academic violations?
Like turn it in?
You don't have to be the one worried about it. The burden is to them.
I asked, and I was told that it's up to you how you want to deal with it. They could be present, but at the end of the day, it was my choice to go forward. And no, I wasn't told that there's a third person. Just forward it to them and don't think about it. If I'd been given that choice, I probably would have taken it. But
that's sort of the policy that we have, is like, so that I don't have to make the decision,
right,
and then I can continue with my work, attend the meetings that they set up, and then whatever the decision is made, you go by it.
Right. That option was never offered to me. It was like, it's your call if you want to, and it was my time, right? My time, my mental energy, my emotional energy. I didn't want to follow up on that. So that would be one way. I mean, it still would be your time if you have to keep showing up to meetings and trying to prove. It's very time consuming. Absolutely. So I'm on my final words. Are we doing okay for time? Yeah. So all that I said right now, as I said, my area of expertise, as Bonita said, is refugee and immigrants. It's not online education. This is simply sharing my experiences of online education on a spring Friday afternoon. My final words is to be strategic, be flexible, and that's the key thing with online education, I think, strategicness and flexibility, but at the same time, consider the boundaries of your flexibility and continue talking with students, negotiate with students, talk with students on the best ways that they will ultimately, they're paying for these courses, right, through the nose with their future. So, just keep negotiating with them the best way for them to engage and be evaluated. And those are my final words.
Can you show the slide that we ended up skipping over where it shows your engagement with a student?
Oh, this one.
So can you read that out?
Yes. So here, this is an example of a student. And this is a nice student interaction. This one made me laugh. As I was doing the reading this week, I thought I'd come up with a couple of questions to get it out of the way. I only bothered to make 2 if we are all going to come up with a few. I'll check back later this week. They never talk like that in the class, right? So I like this. What is the importance of newspapers? How does the worker become commodified? So my response to that is, these questions are good starting points. So obviously I had a lot to say about the questions, and that's what I'm saying, like, consider your personal flexibility, because I could have just gone on. These questions are good starting points to be developed further, but not useful if left in their current state. Develop a fuller question about de Tocqueville's ideas about the role of newspaper in democratic societies, as well as the central concept of commodification, its importance, and how it applies to workers in capitalist economies. Let me know if you need help developing these ideas in greater detail, and look over the questions submitted last week to get a good idea of the kind of tone and depth expected. So that's just an example of me trying to pull a student and, push a student for a kind of more deeper critical engagement with the material. And this was basically my term in classical theory. This was just like, and yeah, 2 a.m., that was real. Yeah.
Did you engage with all the students in this way in the class?
Yeah, for the classical theory course, yes, I would say I did, yeah. Throughout the term. They had to make up questions, and I would be engaging with them, yeah. So yeah, it did end up being quite time consuming, yes.
So what would you actually prepare for a lecture?
Right.
Or in place of a lecture for a class?
Yes, I would prepare, I would give them a reading from either a course book, like an article, a peer-reviewed article, or a chapter from a course book or something like that, accompanied by a PowerPoint, like a series of slides, And I find I do slides for my lectures anyway, even in classroom lectures, just because students love PowerPoint so much. But I find that I do put more detail on PowerPoints, which I prepare for online courses, than I do for, because if you're talking in class, there's just like 1 or 2 bullet points and you just talk about those. But if it's online, you have your bullet points, and then I end up putting YouTube clips and TED Talks and just like pulling things from here and there. So it's not that it's just a summary of the actual reading, but it kind of also pushes it a bit further. So they have to do the reading, and they use the slides as a kind of guide around the reading.
And then would you include questions to think about or key concepts?
Both. Sometimes I get them to make questions because that's a good exercise too. And sometimes I give them questions to think about. I've done both of those things. Yeah. And for key concepts, I usually put them up on the slide. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So about roughly how many slides would you have?
For each lecture?
Yeah.
So for online courses, it has kind of slid towards 25 or so for each module. It does, that is always my challenge, to keep things contained, right? For a classroom, it would be like for one lecture, maybe 5 or 6. So that's why I'm saying I just ended up putting way more information in the online. Yeah, yeah.
So then for clarity, it's just the slides that you provide. There's no, like you had mentioned, you don't do a recorded lecture, but there's no recording accompanying the slides, walking them through it. They're responsible to just read through them.
To read through them. And then there'll be links on the slides to videos or podcasts or something. But yeah, I have done audio recordings, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I haven't made a practice of it. Yeah, like a regular. And that would not be necessarily if we're looking at my experience in life hacks, that wouldn't be my recommendation. Yeah.
So in terms of the time that you put in, like comparing it to classroom teaching, you wouldn't have that hour and a quarter in the classroom. If you've already done your slides for one course,
you could use them again. Yeah, it does end up.
So then the difference would be maybe there'd be more interaction.
Yes,
back and forth.
That is the kind of thing which took up most of my time for online courses.
Maybe more smaller assignments.
I'm generally trying to move to smaller assignments, both in online and conventional and in traditional classrooms. I understand smaller assignments, but more regular is the preferred pedagogical way anyway for evaluation. And I'm trying to move away from that big research essay at the end of the term, worth 40%. That's also mostly my pedagogical preference. I think, yes, in online it does tend to break up, but it doesn't have to. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. Yes.
I have a couple of questions. I'll just start with the first one. In terms of response time,
yes.
Did you find that there was a particular sort of window of response that students felt more comfortable with than others? Like, is it within the same day, within 2 days?
With me responding to them?
In the sense that they'll put a question up on the discussion board, for example.
Yes.
When do you think is a good sort of response time in order for us to sort of help contain our extra time so that we're not constantly online all the time, but maybe say every day or every second day or something like that?
So that's what I say in my course outline. I say it's 24 hours. Give me a 24 hours. And I've seen that in my colleagues too.
Weekends?
Not including weekends. In practice, it did include weekends, and it was much less than 24 hours. I can tell you that. It would be, for classical theory, it just got a bit out of hand, to be honest. Here you can see I've responded within 2 hours, and that is more typical of my response rates.
How much further than 24 hours do you think you could go? Like, how much do you think you could push it? Okay.
I don't know that there's a set answer to that. I mean, lives being as busy and as they are, and students being as stressed as they are, I don't want them to stress out waiting for an answer, right? I don't want to give a blank. I don't believe that I've left a student response either here or just on email unanswered for more than 24 hours. I don't know, maybe my students would say a different thing. My recommendation would not would not be to do that. I hate it when I write to my supervisor and she doesn't get back to me within 24 hours. So
Do you encourage other students to engage in the response as well?
yeah, well, yeah, if it's this kind of format, then yes, it's part of the assignment design that they have to like comment on each other's responses, not necessarily each other's actual polished essay, which that's where I find a lot of reluctance, but on each other responses, yeah.
I have other questions, but if other people want to chime in first.
Bonita, is there any way of looking on YouTube? Like, can I look on YouTube to see if there are questions?
I'm on YouTube right now.
No questions. Oh.
I'm just sharing the questions from the floor. I'm
Oh,
typing them in so that people
I see.
know what has been asked in case they can't hear the audio.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, cool. Technology. Sorry.
But can you go out of that screen? Because
Yes.
It's hard for us to watch from.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. Sorry.
Quite a lag.
I can't. Okay, just ask your question. Can't find the
my
slide.
other question is in terms of final exams and midterm exams. Have you done them online, or have you asked students to come in person?
I didn't do, because of being told about the plagiarism issue and students just not sending other students. I did not do midterm unless, okay, I have done them. I've done, okay, blah, blah, blah. No, for my online courses, I have not done midterm and final exams because I felt there was no way I could control even a little bit. For my classroom engagements, I've done online testing on Brightspace where they had to show up to a computer lab or something, but then I knew my students, so they couldn't send somebody else for themselves, right? So I did have tests in Brightspace and students would show up and do it, but not for online courses. I didn't do finals and midterms. It just didn't seem reasonable. You know, it's just giving them too much leeway.
And my final question is, where do you think the future of online teaching might be? You think would be, when you think about how young people consume online content, it's a lot of these Twitch videos and like people doing other things, and they just follow through for hours, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe that's one example of how online learning might go in?
I think definitely as a new generation of instructors and educators come up, we're going to see more and more different formats of presenting material. But I mean, having said that, and that's very discipline specific to me too, the material that I teach has been the same for like 200 years, right? Whether you're doing a Twitch video for 400 years or more, at the end of the day, and I've told that to students again and again, they have to sit down, they have to read the material, and they will find it hard. It's hard to read, they just have to do it, right? It doesn't matter if I bring a horse and pony and, you know, a circus show on YouTube or whatever. It's still up to them to sit down and read it, and it's painful, but it's rewarding. That's very different. Like maybe if you're teaching, I don't know, gaming or something, your answer will be different. No judgment, but just for my discipline, the format I think will change, but the content is just going to be the same, right? So that's how I see it. And yeah, you're right. There are Twitch videos every day. There's new exciting things, exciting to them, not so much exciting to us. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
For your online courses, right?
Yes.
Yes. So is it the same, like the same Brightspace that we have for our regular classroom and online that you?
So students like to use Facebook because they're on Facebook all the time, and they just found it easier to connect with each other and chat with each other rather than the admittedly clunky design of Brightspace. But for what I was showing there, I had to make them, like that was part of the evaluation, that they come and do discussions on Brightspace, and they complained about it, right? They would have much. So other kinds of evaluations other kinds of assignments was done on Facebook. all of that would be on Brightspace. None of that on Facebook, right? Facebook is like the parking lot, right? You wouldn't put your, the PowerPoints are yours. You're not going to put them in the parking lot. They're,
So there's no other special platform for online.
there are no, SMU uses Brightspace and Dal, I think, uses Brightspace. But for example, Vancouver Island University, they used something that was similar to Brightspace, but it wasn't Brightspace. It had a different name, D2L or something like that. What's that?
Blackboard and Google.
Yeah, yeah. There's all.
Mount Saint Vincent University, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on, you know, what the institution has gone with, right? And that's what you go, that's what you use. But I would say they're roughly similar and use similar technology and have similar capabilities, right? I think so. I mean, I haven't used every single one.
For your regular.
For my regular class, yeah, I should do that, yeah. In class.
For the first time.
Yeah.
It was really happy when I put it. I said, oh, this is going to work great. I don't have to grade anymore. It only worked for the like matching columns. The other, like fill in the blanks, if the student wrote another, maybe if they missed, I teach Spanish, if they missed an accent, or if they added like a period or something else, then it was wrong. I couldn't find a way to see the students' answers.
Yeah.
Then I don't know. Like, do you get help with all these technical situations from studio?
I can't say that they've been super supportive, not to like this. For example, for today, I didn't find that they were very supportive with helping stuff. My online exams for classroom were short answer essays. That's the kind of stuff I usually do. And for that purpose, it worked very well because they just typed in their answer. I haven't tried like the multiple choice and the columns and all that. Having said that, there isn't, and it's useful because you're not like carrying around a forest worth of paper and exams with you, but there is a certain stress, like if it doesn't save properly or whatever, but that has never happened to me, thankfully, because I've never found them to be very useful anyway, the help desk or whatever they're called. They're never there or whatever. Yeah, that's my experience. Closing words, Madam Producer?
Great.
Yeah, and I really want to thank Bonita for pulling this all together. As I said, I'm not an online education expert, but she said, no, you've done lots of stuff and you have lots of things to share. I hope you found it mildly entertaining, at the very least. And yeah, I think that's it.
And we welcome feedback. We can possibly do the same one again in a year's time with a new set of people and maybe have the technology go a little more smoothly.
Yes.
If you're familiar with the technology or you have ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions and your interest. Yes. I think I closed it already. I don't see it anymore. Oh, no, I haven't closed it. Whoops. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I yeah. Yeah.